All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and kick off this meetup. So we're going to try not to use a microphone. So I'm going to ask for anyone in the very back. There's some open seats up here. So everyone, don't be scared of Val. Feel free to get closer. Yeah, she doesn't bite. She's promised that.
This time.
This time.
Yes.
So before kicking off, I want to say thank you to everyone for coming out, and then also thank you to Capital Factory. They always donate this meetup space for us. We've been here for more than 4 years, so they've always been really supportive of the group. So with the show of hands, how many people are coming to the meetup group for the first time? Oh wow, okay, yeah. You guys are in for a real treat. I think tonight's going to be a lot of fun. Val is very unique, and she's also got a very infectious spirit. And one of the things that I admire about Val is that she is a champion of play and being playful, which is important because we spend a huge amount of our time at work, getting to work, thinking about work. And so work can become monotonous, right? It can become dull. However, it doesn't have to be like that. And I can draw from one of my experiences with Val as a good example. So, yeah, right. So the very first email I ever received from Val, every single sentence rhymed, which sounds kind of silly, but was also silly and a lot of fun. And the thing that was important about that is that it made me eager for the next interaction, right? The novelty of that was something that I'd never gotten before and piqued my curiosity. And so the next interaction from there was Val proposing to go on a walking meeting, which, same thing, I'd never done a walking meeting. Has anyone here in the room? Has anyone ever gone on a walking meeting? Okay, awesome, right? There was a lot of fun. I think Val and I, there was a lot of laughter. We pointed at things, we grabbed flowers. It was a very memorable experience for me. So much that now I actually incorporate walking meetings into my routine. And so what I'm most excited about for tonight is that Val sort of reminds us of a very simple thing, which is that when we're happy, when we're engaged, when we're being invigorated, whether it's from novelty or a creative muse or something else, the quality of our work improves. And so with that simple thing, I think Val is going to show us a lot of tactics for us to be proactive about that. And with that said, turn it over to Val and let's have some fun.
All right. Can everybody hear me, first of all? Is that good? Yes, yes, yes? Okay, thumbs, excellent, excellent. Welcome, thank you guys for coming. Thanks to Emiliano for that introduction. I did not know what was coming. So today, as you may have guessed, everybody can relax, by the way. Everyone's shoulders are like this. Everybody can like take a breath, and we're all trapped in this room. You're not going anywhere. We're going to talk about, unless you want to, novelty, as you may have deduced from this big slide. So what novelty is, what it does in your brain, and how you can harness it to help you come up with better ideas, bigger ideas, and just make things more fun for you at work. So, one big misconception about novelty is that it has to be like a huge, big thing. So like a giant volcano or like a big trip or something sizable, but that's not the case. There are, as with anything, there is like a spectrum. So on the first end of the spectrum, here are some examples. You're driving in traffic, or really not driving in traffic, you're just like standing there looking at stuff because there is traffic. And you see, that's how it works, am I right? So, in my experience as well, interesting. So you see a funny license plate, right? And that's like a little king of novelty. That's very easy, you barely had to do anything. You just had to be there like trying to get somewhere, not being able to do that. But there it is, and your brain lights up. Likewise, there is a walk that you can take, like Emiliano mentioned, so like a 10-minute little walk. You've been at your desk or you've been sitting for a while and you just want to get up and move around. So you go and you're going to see something new. You don't know what it is, but something new will enter your purview. So then we have like this second tier, and we're using like an archery metaphor, like a bullseye thing, whatever this thing is called. Do we have any archers? No, okay. Well, we're gonna call it the archery bullseye thing going forward. So slightly more like time committal. We have like a book reading, which could be like 30 minutes or just paging through a book that sits on your desk that you never look at kind of thing. We have going to a new restaurant, which might take a little bit more planning. You have to decide like what night of the week, or maybe you have to make a reservation, but still not a huge time commitment. And a field trip to a town near you, or a city near you, so maybe like a half day. So these are all really easy examples. You guys know how to do these things already. And then we have like the big ones. So it's like, I'm going to drop everything in my life and go travel for a year kind of thing. Or just I'm gonna go on vacation somewhere far away. So that's sort of like an example of the novelty scale. So little moves, big moves. So we know how the size of novelty, but we actually haven't defined it. And the dictionary definition is a little boring, but it's basically anything new. So like new, unusual, original. So depending on our experience, what's novel for one person can be not novel for another, and vice versa. Very individual and on a scale. So we've got that figured out. And now I'll have a little water. Are we good? Everybody follows? It's okay to like emote, like to let me know that you're not frozen in time and space. Totally fine. So yeah, you can laugh, like things are great. Things are great. So I want to set up a couple basic truths. The first one is a big one. And that is that you, all of you, guys, gals, are innovators. So not the person next to you, not the person behind you. Everybody who's ever solved a problem, either creatively or just solved it. Like you are an innovator. And you are in possession of novelty and also a need for novelty. So there's a big, simple reason why you need novelty. You have to think of ideas, because you have to problem solve. And if you don't have things coming in, or rather this way, do it with the thing. If you don't have ideas coming in, it's really hard to put novel ideas out. So that's like the big duh reason, like not hard to come by. Simple input output, but that's essentially the value proposition for novelty in a tiny little baby nutshell. Like you can't have interesting stuff coming out if you don't put interesting stuff in. Or like a meat grinder, like there are many other metaphors that we could use. So there's also a science reason, or a few science reasons. Woo! There we are, science. Just kidding. And we'll go through those because they're kind of fun. So 3 things happen in your brain when you experience novelty. And novelty, again, just any new thing that you encounter that you haven't encountered before. So it could be like you're walking along and there's like a, what is that called? Like a messenger bag in your way, and you're like, oh my God, it's in my way. Novelty, boom, that's it. It can be that small. So the first thing that happens is your brain interprets any new stimulus as a potentially dangerous thing. So not like fight or flight level, but just enough to zero in on it. So basically what it does is prioritizes that stimulus, and everything else moves to the background, and you experience this heightened sense of awareness, which in work terms is also called flow. So the great thing about that is when you are in a state of flow or a heightened state of awareness, you get this not only for like the duration of the stimulus, so you're not like tripping over the thing and then it's done, it's over. You have the lingering effects for 15 to 30 minutes afterwards. So that's prime time for what we call brain plasticity, the ability to learn and memorize. So basically you're jolting your brain into attention. So you should probably like put some stuff in it. And then the other thing that happens is dopamine is released. So that's tied to your reward and pleasure systems in your brain. And it's not a reward in and of itself, but incentivizes you to continue to look for rewards. So you enter into a new situation and you think, your brain thinks, this is like very much on a subconscious level, your brain thinks there might be a reward here, like there might be something going on here, I'm going to investigate. And if it does and there is no reward, it just jumps to the next thing. So it's like a biological incentive to keep looking for the next, for the next, for the next. So what happens during all of these processes is you're collecting influences and exposure to things and ideas, and they will feed your creative process. And we'll talk about more, I know you guys are maybe like a little metrics hungry, but we'll talk about those too. So, those are science reasons, but there's also a fun reason. Number one, it is fun to experience new things. This is more of like the duh principles. We're gonna cover these very thoroughly, duh. So fun is a big one, and people who experience a lot of novelty bring that to the people around them in their world. So not only is novelty in itself more fun, but people who experience more of it like to share it, so they're also more fun. So that's, I see more nods for fun than like that weird brain stuff. You could have just taken all the science stuff out of there. Interesting, very curious. So what I want to talk about briefly is, I'm still not used to this mechanism where like I can see it in 17 different places, so bear with me, but it's fun. The way that we experience novelty as adults is super segmented. So as kids, we have like our little novelty net and we just run around and we're encouraged to have new experiences all the time because that's how we learn. So for some reason, as adults, the assumption somewhere along the line gets made that that's no longer important, which I obviously disagree with because we're still learning and we still need new things in our lives. Instead, we have, that's not a like Flava Flav thing, that's like a clap, like a weight. And I thought there might be confusion, but I thought I would just go with it. We have responsibilities and obligations and our schedule is not so flexible and there's no real cultural incentive for us to bring new things in. So, this is kind of like what being an adult looks like. We have like work, which is hopefully 5 boxes, and not work, which is 2. And I did all of the days because work isn't just being at work. It's like getting to work, sitting in traffic, making your lunch, like buying your work clothes, blah, 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 putting your kids to bed, yada, yada, yada. Like it goes on and on. So really those 5 days, and then you're exhausted. So those 5 days are really work days. And there's not a lot of novelty that goes on there because most of us go to the same place for work. So you've got like this sameness happening and you've got these rigid time constraints and then you have expectations of being productive and like doing things. And then you have this little not work slice, which is where you have fun, but you have fun in, in ways that you already know how. So you go to another restaurant or you go to another town or you go paddleboarding or something like that. And those do definitely have dimensions of novelty, but they're repeated actions and they only occur for most people in this like constrained period of time. And the access to novelty for adults is pretty easily explained, like why we don't do it at work essentially, because it's just more of a constrained environment. You don't have the freedom of time, you don't have the freedom of space. But it's really important, as we saw with all that crazy science junk, it's really important to access novelty when we're trying to work, because at work, what are we trying to do? Anybody? What do you guys try to do at work? Be innovative, solve problems. Great, yeah, exactly. So why novelty would be excluded from that equation is a little bit unclear. There's definitely a cultural thing going on where we still feel like work is done at a desk, seated in the same place, and that the number of hours you work counts for a lot, whereas what you produce somehow randomly counts for less. And that's just like some cultural stuff that we have to get over eventually, but we're still not there. So no novelty, which is sad. But you guys have individually the power to bring novelty to your work environments. And it comes down to one pretty easy conceptual thing. It's the see versus look principle. I see somebody giggling without giggles, just like a face giggle, which is totally good. So basically it's the difference between seeing something and just looking at it. If you look underneath your desks or tables, you will not see, you will find a piece of paper. Yes, this is cold. Oh no, did you not get a piece of paper? You may have to share. Okay, so can everybody roll it into a rolled piece of paper?
Does anyone not get a sheet of paper?
You may have to hunt around for a sheet of paper near you. You may have to look for one, yeah. True story. So what do we have here? Like most basically, anybody? A scroll. Yes, it's like the Dead Sea Scrolls. Even more basic than that.
Telescope.
Telescope. See, that's a see. That's seeing and not looking. When we look, we see when we look, we have. We can't say when we look, we see. When we look, we observe a piece of paper that's rolled into a little thing, a Dead Sea Scroll. But when we see, we have a telescope. So try it out. Like, see if you can go around the room, find something with your telescope, and see if you notice something that you didn't notice before with your newly, very excitingly limited field of vision. It's kind of fun, no? So that's like a little tiny baby novelty search that you just got. And that is the principle of seeing versus looking. So if we apply that example to a desk situation, maybe your desk is like this, maybe it's not, maybe it's cooler, less cool, whatever. Someone who's just looking says, this is my desk, like this is where I come to do my work, this is what happens, right? Like everybody can imagine that happening. But someone who is seeing is going to take a different view. So they see their desk chair and they go, oh my gosh, it has wheels, like these guys, you can spin around, like something fun. Or they see that their cactus is having a new flower. Or, which happens like once in a blue moon. Or they have, as we just talked about, like a calendar notification, and they're like, oh, well, I'm gonna take this meeting, this thing that I already have to do, and I'm just gonna put it into a walking meeting, so I can do like a few birds with one stone, but also I get to see something new, and I get to move around, and it's not the same old thing. This one is like an Austin-specific thing, like, oh my God, a new building. This happens all the time. And then this happens a ton too. You can make like a novelty joke. It's a book. I just made it for you, sorry. Oops, oops, oops. So you can page through that, or you could read it. It's a lot of books, and I'm guilty of this myself, are just like desk ornaments, so that like you look like you're reading maybe, or you look smart, or like you have other interests out of work. But they're really great. There's like stuff in there too, which is awesome. I know, it's crazy. So I'm gonna put you guys to work, I think. Oh my gosh, I got the collaboration face. Yes, it's going to happen. So there are essentially, I mean, there are like infinite categories, right? But for our purposes, we'll keep it tiny, and we'll do sort of 4 conceptual bearings. So taking a new route. So you can take a new route to work, or you can take a new route to the bathroom, or you can take a new route to your desk. Like there, again, it's on a scale that goes from teeny tiny to very significant and huge. And you can touch things. A cactus is not recommended, but to illustrate the point. That's sort of like a tactile engagement with the things around you. So you could move your desk around and see how that makes you feel. If you have like a different view that you switch up, what that does for the ideas and the thoughts that you have. Indulging your eyeballs. How many times have you guys walked past something and said to yourself like, oh, I want to look at that, or that's interesting, but you go, oh, but I can't. I have a meeting, or I have to do this, or like, oh, I don't want to like bend down and look at that because it's going to look weird because no one else is looking at it. Anybody? I see a nod. Yes, yes. You can raise your scroll in solidarity. Very good. And then the last one's pretty straightforward. You talk to people. So you talk to someone you don't know, which will be easy to do here. I assume not everybody knows each other. And one of my favorite examples of that is the elevator, which can be like a very weird, quiet, dead zone, which is really uncomfortable for everybody. You just break the ice. You have to be that guy or that gal, and you just do it. And you say, I'm going to talk to the people in the elevator. And I've actually had some wonderful conversations, and then I continue to be in touch with those people. So to develop your elevator presence, recommended. So with that said, I want you guys to think up some that you could either imagine doing in this room or in your office or wherever it is that you work. And if you work from home, some kind of like adjustment to your routine, but if we keep it under these 4 categories. But I'm gonna throw something else in. I wanna do it in groups, and I want you guys to meet new people. So can you do like groups of 3, 4, 5? perhaps, with people that you don't know. And I have crayons. So I heard some fun things. I heard about a sitting versus standing desk, like it gets, did I steal?
That's
I stole. Okay, do you want me
You
to
can
call
steal
on you? Should we rewind? We can rewind the tape, it's fine. A sitting versus standing desk. So, what category? Suppose, oh no.
Success category.
Well, you know, I don't know how to make things happen in there, so I'm just gonna leave it alone. If you guys think of one of these that would be useful to you, just put it in your brain. We're not even gonna write it down. So we'll just go back there. So that maybe is in the touch things, or take a new route, like sitting route, standing route. I know someone came up with switching spaces. You had like a certain thing that you brought into the classroom. Oh,
Now I'm blank. Well, I mean, like one of the things, like we're talking about paper when I have kids do their work. So we don't have like carpet, but I'm a teacher, but I'm going to teach math. And so I lay down like that butcher paper and tell kids it's magic carpet. So like have kids with ADD and other things, and just they're kids. So all kids have like some kind of hyperactivity. So they get to get up and move around after their worksheets, and they have to do like underneath the table. So they have to crawl underneath it and find it. These are 12 to 13-year-olds, and they love it. So, and we put stuff all on. So they're always up and dancing and stuff.
it's a lot of movement.
Teachers like you.
Yeah.
They can do a lot of fun.
Teachers.
Need more workspaces like
So let's talk about that for a minute, like more workspaces like that was the comment. Why not? Why not add a dimension? So maybe, you know, in your office, you can't like roll out a big red carpet, but maybe you have like a little one and you like, just between a few of you refer to it as like the magic carpet, or like when the magic carpet comes out, then it's time for, you know, to take a walk or to take a break or to do something fun. Like there are all these little adaptations that you can do to make your work life less monotonous, more fun. I took terrible notes. I don't think the camera will focus on that, but my goodness. Someone mentioned that there's novelty in their workplace because they switch locations every day.
Right.
So it's built in for you. So you know you need that, and so you just like, that's why you do what you do. What do you do?
I'm actually a professional peacemaker. I go to where conflict is and resolve it quickly and efficiently so they don't have to shoot each other
Oh my gosh.
or marry each other.
Oh, or both. Think about that. And I heard something else really interesting about the internet rabbit hole in the back.
Yeah,
What do you do when you need a novelty dose?
I think everyone's on Reddit like every 5 minutes or something.
Is everyone truly on Reddit every 5 minutes? Okay. Yes, no, mixed. So, you know, maybe you guys spend a little more time like learning about each other, which is totally fine. But you understand like the framework, correct? Like little micro adjustments. We have a comment.
So one of the things that we talked about was you see a lot of people every single day, whether it's in
Yes.
co-working space, but you never really talk to them. What's sort of your thought? I'd like to talk about you turn an elevator into an opportunity.
Yes.
Why does that work for you and not work for other people?
Well, so the question was when turning an elevator or another, like, generally typically more silent place into an opportunity to get to know the people you work with better, or the people who are passing through your workspace. It is, you know, there is a dimension of who's comfortable doing that. But you sort of look at the risk and reward. Like if you want to bring novelty in, you do have to put forth some effort, because there are things everywhere. But you do have to be able to see them, and then it's up to you to engage with them. So sometimes the things are people, if that makes sense. And you just say, you know, like you find a common point of contact. So if Kato and I were in the elevator together, I would say, I really like your shirt. And then we would talk about something else, because I'm sure she does more than just wear shirts. So that's the lead-in. You just take something tiny, and then you make a larger step from there. And then maybe you talk again another day, because you will see most of these people again. But it's just opening up the conversation with something simple.
But if it's a stranger,
Yes.
I mean, so obviously you initiate, but are you leading with a compliment? Are you talking about yourself? Like, is there a path to that?
Well, you can, so how do you do this with a stranger? So you could do either of those. So leading with a compliment is a great way to do it. Like, I love your shoes. Let's talk about politics, kind of thing. Maybe that would not be so maybe there would be a few extra steps in there. But if you do talk about yourself, you could just say, I don't know what floor to go to, or can you help me, or what do you think about this co-working space, or something where you kind of know the answer already, but it just gives you like a little foot in the door. Yeah. What else? Did anyone come up with anything wild and crazy that they want to share? There's something that they can think of doing now that they wouldn't have thought of before? Yep.
Well, one of our group members said brushing your teeth with the other hand.
Whoa. That's wild, actually. Can everyone like simulate that? That a little bit blew my mind. I'm gonna try that later and report back to you. That sounds tricky. That's like brushing someone else's teeth. Have you ever tried to do that? That's really not easy.
Yeah.
What's that?
You could also
You could also do that.
I talked to me.
Or you should ask someone in an elevator, can I brush your teeth? Or you should say, excuse me, can I brush your teeth? That's like a touch things one. So you want to ask permission. You guys are
Always
getting this.
permission.
You're great. Anybody else? Any like little quick trick?
We had someone in our group that mentioned, it was more in the touch category, but just with a lot of stressful environments, having pets or dogs or just being in that presence can reduce blood pressure, from petting a dog or interacting with a cat or something.
Yes, did everybody hear that? So bringing pets into the workplace, which, in some places is still not okay, but in a lot of places, they bring them in. So if let's say your workplace doesn't allow pets, what do you do? Stuffed animal. Stuffed animal, good, yes.
Good.
What else?
Ask for forgiveness. Plants.
Like sneak one in, plants.
Change everyone's desktop wallpapers to pets.
Change everyone's desktop wallpapers to pets. That's a good one. That's a definite exercise in novelty. Maybe you want to ask permission. I don't know. You guys know your own office dynamics. Change all the desktop wallpapers. Well, good. So you guys got into it a little bit. We're gonna skip the next slide because it doesn't work. And we're gonna look at that. Success! You guys just exercised your brains. That was a brain wearing a sweatband with a muscle thing going on. So it's these it's nothing big, right? It's these tiny micro adjustments, but setting your life up in a way at work where you have access to little tips and tricks to get you out of the mundaneness of being at work. And once you go for little things, like making this beautiful paper airplane, thank you so much, which maybe I will, oh no, aviation mistake. Oh, here comes another one. Careful, no paper cuts. That was beautiful. Let's see if we can, who wants it? Okay. That is why I do not fly. Yes. So, but the point is, they're tiny little things, even as simple as maybe a paper airplane and throwing it at somebody, but your brain will want more. The dopamine kick will encourage more exploration. So you're gonna rise to bigger and better little novelty challenges, and that just brings more stuff into your brain that you can put out in terms of ideas. So, metrics. Yes, we love metrics. This is a really simple one. I wish it worked this way, but it just doesn't. So if the novelty increased and proportionally the sex, power, and money, in whatever order it is important to you, also increased, that would be great, but it's just not that quantitative. You will never really be able to measure okay, I did 3 novel things today, and that means that my profits will increase by 17%, and my efficiency will increase by 24%, and my likability will increase by 10-fold. It's just not that quantitative or that linear. It's really soft science. So really what you're doing is just betting on yourself. You're letting as much as you possibly can to like keep your brain sharp, and you're just giving yourself the opportunity to experience a lot of different things in hopes that they will turn into ideas later. You just won't be able, the likelihood of tracing that line back is very, very, very tiny. So, to wrap, a few really, really simple concepts, which I think you guys already know. And some like weird hand gestures and stuff. Novelty is everywhere. Even in a space that maybe some of you have already been to, even in the office that you go to every day, it's just everywhere. It's just a matter of seeing it rather than looking at it as you normally would. And basically what you're doing is building a stronger brain. You're building a more functional and more like hungry brain, because novelty just begets more novelty. You have to continually challenge yourself. Once you start like with the little 5-10 minute things, you're gonna need a novelty boost that's like the 2 or 3 hour thing, and then you're gonna need to quit your job and travel the world forever. It's just how it works. There's nothing I can do. And then novelty is for work. So remember the sort of like 5 days of work and 2 days of, or I guess this way, of non-work. So we want 7 days of novelty. We want the whole thing to be like awash in beautiful novelty. And I hope you guys have gotten a few little tricks or just like a little fun in your evening and maybe met some new people. And if you do take any of this stuff on, I really want you to tell me. So you could like come whisper in my ear if you know where I live. A little strange. You could email me, you could tweet me. Some people do know where I live. That is weird, okay? Please don't all come to my house. But get in touch. If you put any of these into practice in your work life or in any other way, like if you just discover little novelty tricks on your own, bring them to me because I want to know what they are. And then if you want a little novelty cheating, you could just sign up for my email newsletter. It's very short. There are a lot of pictures. And it's like pretty infrequent, but little weird links to things and like fun projects and all this kind of stuff. So that's it, you guys. Thank you for coming. Thank you to our organizers. Thank you to Capital Factory for having us. And do have fun and novelty and all kinds of things. Thanks, you guys. Yes, I love questions and
Do we have
crayons.
time for questions?
Yes,
Thanks.
you can leave whenever you want.
Dad.
No pressure.
Dad says you can leave whenever you want. Do you
So,
have a question?
yeah, what would be some examples and recommendations you may have for how people can, keep their brain more elastic, whether through exercise, nutrition, something else that we may not have covered? How can people
Totally.
keep their brains more elastic on a day-to-day basis so that they can learn and come up with those,
Yes.
experiences?
Yes, so the question was how to keep your brain more elastic and more open to receiving more information on a day-to-day basis, maybe through exercise or through nutrition. Yes?
And anything else that
Or anything else that we didn't cover.
Right.
Totally. So this is definitely the tip of the iceberg. Like this is like a tiny, tiny presentation about like a gigantic topic. So a couple recommendations, like first find what speaks to you, like find what you're interested in. So I, for example, am a plant person. So I walk around and I like look at plants and I touch plants and I freak out about plants. But not everybody is interested in that. So someone might be like a car person or like, a bike nerd or something. So when they're walking around, they're seeing different things. So 2 things in there, like walk around or be out in the world more. And also just follow your visual impulses. Like if you have an interest in something, instead of telling yourself that you don't have time to look at that or like I should be doing something else, just go, just check it out. And it will lead you to something else. Like you already know what you're interested in. It's just a matter of giving yourself permission to pursue it. And on the nutrition end, that's like a whole huge topic, but I would say don't eat a lot of sugar because it's bad for you. Or just like eat to be productive, like what makes you feel good and what makes you feel like you're in a food coma. So like don't eat that stuff so much and do eat more of the other stuff.
All the chips over here are sugar-free.
Wait, the chips are sugar-free, that's great. The water also, sugar-free, sugar-free. Question?
I want to comment to build on that.
Please.
Probably when I first met Emiliano, you talked about he's got this notebook page that he uses, and most of the people here are many of the entrepreneurs, and your work is probably, I consider my work play. You know, it's what I like doing when I get up and I have time. I like to think about what I'm doing and working. And I made a copy of the page. He's got all the specs on his website, and you can kind of customize it. And it's kind of designed like for a list, but it makes you want to doodle more than write.
Yes.
And it's just kind of, I've only had it for a couple of weeks, but I find myself, you know, drawing a lot more and being more creative, just using your weird little notebook paper. Thank you.
So, weird little notebook paper. So basically like that's, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is it like a strategy or what is it?
I will share it. But I think this pigtails something that Val said, and so Val hasn't talked about it, but one thing is she normally starts her day walking, like that's the first she goes out and she starts her day, and like that's how she collects. And so I think one of the important things is every person needs to be conscious of creating a daily ritual that is important for them. And so for me in the morning, the first 15 minutes, and really usually almost the first hour of every day, I have time block regardless of what's going on. And if you literally can time block 1 hour for yourself, then you have larger issues, right? But the first thing I have is, so in my notebook, the first thing I do is I just clearly set what's the one thing I need to get done. And if I do that, then everything else that happens in my day doesn't matter. I've made something substantial. And then from there, I have a little routine of, I set alarms for when I need to go to meetings or talk to someone, because I'm very easily interested. So if I don't have those alarms, I will miss my meetings. And then it's basically just 3 things. I have this ritual, 3 things I do every single day. And then the paper in itself has a dot grid system, so it lets you have the flexibility of writing or just sketching or doodling, any kind of thing like that, without the lines being obtrusive. And then the final thing is it has a section where I can put action tasks. So when you're sort of like ideating, you just draw all over the place, you write things. But for me, I quarantine things that are actually actionable into a specific section, and it makes it really easy for me to then differentiate the stuff that is just like creative process, getting sheets down on paper, versus the stuff that I need to go get this done. So I have it on me. I'm happy to share it to anyone and give out the template.
So that's
but I think to you, it's like your daily ritual, right?
it's
like
creating a structure.
Yeah, and it's not your whole day. This is how I get going, right? This is how I go and take on and achieve things throughout my day.
But there's like a self-assessment before that where you're like, this is what I need, and then you like give yourself what you need, knowing that it doesn't take away from all the other stuff that you have to do. It like since you have to be successful at it. Yeah. Anything else? Question?
Like, why do you think people don't follow the visual impulse stuff? So I think when you said it, what resonated with me is that I don't have the time, right?
Yeah.
And but I've also seen like, we usually underestimate, like, there's a thing, if you need to get something done by Friday,
Yes.
you're gonna get it done by Friday, right? Regardless if you get that task assigned to you on Monday or you get it assigned on Wednesday, like, we always basically get things done when we need to get them done.
Yes.
So how do you combat, how do you give yourself that permission to go and to follow your impulses without feeling guilty?
So a few things, like there's a social permission, like if you know, depending on how out of the box what you're trying to do is, like if you need to like get through a crowd of people to like just touch some leaf or something, like that might be difficult. So that barrier is high, and you might, you know, maybe it's something you're not supposed to touch. Like maybe I want to touch that lamp, and like I'm probably not supposed to be up there, but I just want to. So it's like, do I want to climb up on the table in front of all of you and do it? Which I probably would, but that's like a comfort level, you know, that you build. So that's one thing that people weigh, like, is this socially embarrassing for me to do this thing? And I don't think they do it that consciously. I think it's just like a split decision that it's like, no, I'm not going to do that because nobody else is, and then you just like keep going. But the time thing is really easy to talk yourself into and out of. Like we all have more time than we say we have. You've all gotten like a text that's like, hey, do you want to hang out? And you're like, oh my God, so busy. And you're not. You just don't want to. It's just like a matter of prioritizing. So if you know that by like following your impulses, which are reflections of your natural interests, that you're going to get to somewhere good, maybe not like in a quantitative immediate way, like I'm going to touch this chair and then I'm going to like invent the new Facebook. Not quite. But if you know that the sum, maybe though, hey? So the sum of those actions or like the possibility of that working out that way is enough to motivate you, then you'll do it. If it's not that important to you, then you'll just like keep on your path. So that kind of answer feels like a very roundabout way, as we do. Anybody else? Anybody have anything weird or fun to say? Come on. Yes.
Peanut butter.
Peanut butter, delicious. Not on a plane though, okay? Lots of allergies.
Not allergy.
Nut allergies. Anybody want to talk about nut allergies? Go on.
I do have another question.
Okay.
So, so based on this, like, from your experience and what you've seen, what impact do novelties have on, people or teams, even, ability to, address, customer or project problems and find solutions?
Yes. So did everybody hear the question? We're cool? So basically the effect that novelty has on teams is keeping you interested in each other and in what you're trying to do, so in solving the problem. If it's like the same thing day in and day out and you're just like pounding harder at a specific issue or like a specific function of an app or some kind of other problem, there's not a lot of incentive for you to resolve it. Like there's no fun, there's no reward there, except like getting your paycheck and like getting it done and not having to do it anymore. But if you can create more dimension to that, like if you can bring in new influences that make things fun, then you're more inclined to want to continue to work with those people and to chase the solution to whatever the problem is. Does that get at what you?
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. I never know, does anyone also not know if they answer a question because they said? Yes,
So I was
please.
gonna say that one of the challenges, if you have a team that's all of the same type of personality or whatever, let's say they're all analytical software developers and you're not, then the challenge is how do you disrupt their environment but without such a way that you get the, you know what I mean? They
Yes.
basically think that what you're doing is not valuable or is distracting or whatever. So how have you dealt with that?
Totally.
Because you're a proponent that there's value in it, but I'll tell you, there's a lot of people that they'll immediate reaction, so there's no value in it, and
Yeah, I'm
this
busy
is the
coding,
stupidest
I
thing
don't
I've
have
ever
time, this is stupid. Absolutely, totally.
How
You
do you
have to show it to them on their own terms, like you have to almost design an experiment that they don't know that you are running on them, that shows them that there's something at the end of the tunnel. So knowing those folks, you have to be like, okay, well, what is an incentive for them? How can I wrap this incentive in this secret experiment and show them that my approach is worthwhile? Yeah, so I would run like a creepy science experiment on them.
Actually, to tag on top of that, it's gotta be a company culture, or,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
There's
from
gotta-
top down.
Right, so I mean, if the company doesn't have space for like, having teams get together, either like, I know Google's famous for having like, half day Fridays, every other Friday or something like that, where it's just like, come up with your own thing, right?
Yes.
So if it's not embedded in the culture, then, it is just like, you stay at your desk, you do this. Changing that's hard.
Yeah.
Changing that's hard. But you either mobilize as like a large group of people within that culture who happen to not be at the top of it, or you switch cultures. You say like, this is not fulfilling enough for me. Whatever my, like my comfortable salary is, or whatever's keeping me at this job that's not enough, I'm gonna make this change.
Right, so, and what I've tried to do is I've tried to say, okay, we're gonna have a team building activity, okay? And one of the challenges I'm having with the team is, let's say, velocity or productivity.
Yeah.
So we're going go-karting, and the competition is to try to figure out who gets there fastest. That's what I need you guys to do, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like one example, or another example is the competition's coming in, they've been taking shots at all of the, issues, bugs, whatever, and we've got to go, do, laser tag or something, Because I've tried to take the theme and make it applicable to the situation that the team is in, so that maybe it'll.
Are they recognizing that?
They
though?
do.
Like, is it
Yeah,
explicit?
they do, but I'm not sure it's always effective because they go, "Why go-karting?" Or they'll go like, "Really?"
Well, what do they want? You have to find out what they want.
I mean, they'll always have some kind of reaction like, "Really?"
That's hard. Can you get to the root of like what their go-karting is? So it's obviously
Yeah,
not
that's-
go-karting,
yeah.
but what is it?
Yeah.
And you could just ask them to say
Well,
like, well, what drives
Or another
you?
example is to figure out, what I've done is do a quick survey and figure out something that nobody's ever done before.
Yes, and try
And
it
then
on.
go pick that one, because if you do that, then they can all say, "Hey, I took away a new experience that."
Or you can't say that sucks. 'cause you've
Exactly.
never done it.
That's exactly, exactly.
Awesome. Yeah, that's tricky, especially when you're the outlier, like in a group of like more like-minded folks. Yeah, finding out what people want and then getting buy-in from there. Yes, sir?
Have you ever run one of those experiments where you try and prove the value of novelty to people who don't see the value in it?
I honestly don't waste that much time on it. No, because like people are ready when they're ready or not ready when they're not ready. So if I've like said my thing and people are like, that sucks, then I'm like, well, okay, I'm gonna go do something fun. See you, peace. And that's pretty much it. But if someone wants to be like along for the ride, I'm happy to share like fun events or things that are going on or like little strategies or ways to see things. Happy to go for walks and show people things.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
a follow-up to that, so I mean, I think Meetup ago, we had Ash, one of the other organizers of this, and one of the questions was, how do you overcome objections when you're trying to introduce lean principles into a new organization? Which, I mean, anyone who's ever tried to change something, change is great as long as it's happening to someone else, right? And I think he gave a very wise answer, which is that I don't chase companies that have objections, right? I build those warm leads, and I come to people where there's already an advocate or there's a champion, or people recognize that something is wrong and we need to get, we need to change things. So I think it sort of goes to that point. It's really hard to change someone's opinion or behavior unless they're open to it.
Yeah, or at the very least curious, like
Yeah.
low bar is curious and then the rest.
And you gotta decide how much effort you're gonna
Yeah,
spend on
right.
that, because it could be tremendous.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing about Val. She has two reasons why I call her. She makes these little books called like the Little Book of, and so it's like a book the size of this battery. You can see a video on her website of her like at Kinko's making these things by hand, and it's like one of them is like railing against hipsters, another one is about why she doesn't like cats, and so they're really good examples of her creative spirit. And then she's also working on doing Tuba Sutra, so it's a book about Taba Sutra. I'll let you explain. How about that?
Well, so basically it's a book about, this is like completely off topic now, but a book about the sensuality of the bath. So like a descriptive but not prescriptive way to enjoy either alone or together. So it's like a tongue-in-cheek thing with like tub poses and things like that. It'll be out like winter, spring. Taba Sutra, because there is none. Can you believe that? You're like, yeah, actually. But I can't believe that, so I have to do something. But yeah, lots of weird projects.
I just want to point something out.
Thank
We were
you.
just before that talking a lot about some of the difficulties of adding novelty into your life, and a lot about kind of adding novelty into other people's lives. But I mean, if you think about that, that target from the beginning, yeah, there are difficulties and challenges when you're getting to those more central areas of that target and the bigger pieces of novelty. But that outer ring, I mean, is a really great place to start with stuff, and it's super, super easy. One of my favorite things that kind of came up from just my life and like things that I noticed while I was younger was look up. People are always looking straight ahead. People are looking down. They're at their feet. They're at their desk. I've stood on the edge of a rooftop that's like less than 20 feet off the ground and had people out there like right there, and nobody saw me. because they just don't look up. And yeah, just little things like that, just tiny little changes of behavior, you can notice so much more.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Or look down, like look anywhere that you don't always look. I think that's
Like
great.
deep close in on something.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's just like a physical change of perspective, which is like a very easy way, like the outer ring, as you mentioned, like to get into it. Like one tiny change, boom.
So I have a question, and again, I'm coming from I don't know, I consider myself an entrepreneur, even though I haven't actually invented
You
or
are.
have anything out on the product, the market. But as a teacher, I sell math to 12-year-olds every day.
Which is not
and,
easy.
To try to get them to come on board and do what we do. But I know that, in a school setting too, like I'll share with Cameron, there's like this giant checklist of things that you have to do, before 9 a.m. And then, then there's all the other stuff you have to accomplish, and there's this segment. And so if you're not like that kind of teacher that's just, with your head buried in, if you're fun and weird and, break dance for kids and do things, you're kind of, off to the side. But then, that I don't have like, what do we call them? And I wanted to talk to that gentleman there, but he left. Like discipline problems. Like in my classroom, I don't really have, like I have one or two that, aren't always, 100% engaged. But I have like teachers right across from me that are barking and yelling at kids, and it's the same kids that act like awesome people in my classroom, and they're horrible people right across, like a yard across. And so there's gotta be we're trying novel things, there's a few of us that are trying some different ideas. So do you ever come into like schools, or do you do presentations
No,
like
but I
that?
could.
That would be, yeah, because I think that there's a lot that.
No, there's a
school
lot that's
system
happening
needs.
to kids that's trying to like prematurely turn them into adults, which is horrifying. It makes me sad. But yeah, that would be super. Well, because you've obviously figured something out. Like it's the same kids with like these quote unquote behavioral issues, but they don't exist in your class. Like it sort of blows my mind that nobody can see that. But maybe you need like a little more muscle behind. Yeah, that would be great. Ooh, in the back.
Yeah, I want to kind of tag on to your comment, because I think everything you said, I'm really kind of thinking about how I teach my 7-year-old. I tell her, you gotta sit straight, you gotta eat straight. When you walk, you gotta have self-control, you gotta have control your impulses. I tell her that probably 10, 100 times a day. Her teacher tells her that 10, 100 times a day. So, and I think when I was little, I was probably kind of the same way, so I had programmed that way. But now we are having to relearn everything that we gave up. It's kind of sad. But how do you really, I guess I'm curious, when you grew up, did you have grown-ups around you that
did,
taught
believe
you
it or
what to
not.
do?
So, that's a great question. So my mom is really permissive, but she also, like, there were places of absolutes, and then there were places that were like really wishy-washy watery. So it's like, if you get straight A's, then you can do whatever the heck you want as long as you don't get arrested. Like, there was a lot of flexibility here, but this condition had to be met. So I had to discipline myself, like, to the point where I was getting the grades that would like satisfy her. And then I could just tool around, like do my like weird little art projects and do whatever I wanted to do, as long as I didn't get in like legitimate horrible trouble. But I think there's a lot of pressure, I think, for parents and for everyone to like act a certain way, or to make sure that your kids are both super individualistic and fit into like check all the boxes. That's really hard to do. And throw into the fact, or into that mix, the fact that kids develop, and everybody really develops at their own rate. So you might have like a 7-year-old who's really like a secret 45-year-old, or like a secret like 2-year-old. You don't really know where to meet them until they display like a need for something. I did teach before. Sorry, this is not like totally out of left field. But it's a hard balance. Like, I don't really have any. I mean, if you see that it's wearing on your kid, if they're like really pushing towards something and you're like, no, just like let them go a little farther, would be my my plea, but there are no absolutes. Like parenting is ridiculously difficult. I have no idea how people do it.
I think the fact that you're just conscientious about it.
Also,
And I realize it, you're working on it.
Yeah, I feel like I take one step forward and 2 steps backward every day.
It's your kid's fault.
did you say that's your kid's fault? And disclaim the kids, that'll make it way easier. Oh man. Alright, you guys, are you like hot and tired? Or it's ready for night night? Or like a beer or whatever one does for these things? Thank you for staying so long and like talking to each other.